Hello everyone, this is Ashley from Ashley's Creations, and today I want to share with you how I made this shaker card using elements from the January My Monthly Hero Kit from Hero Arts. So I started off with a 4 by 5¼ inch piece of watercolor paper, and I'm just taking the 2 ink cubes that are included in your kit. It's a really beautiful pink and red, and I'm smushing them onto a piece of acetate paper that I have. Now, I'm going to spray these with my water and my mini mister from Step It Up. They don't react very well with water. In fact, they don't react like at all with water, but I went with it. I just smushed it in, kind of moved it all around, picked up the water, picked up the ink. You can see there's like no rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. I'm just smushing it in and moving it all over to pick up the most color. And then I didn't have enough color. I didn't like it. Well, I like it, but I wanted more color. So I cleaned off my acetate piece, and I'm just smushing the ink pads back onto the acetate so that I can get even more color. I wanted it to be even darker, and I wanted to get some more of the red in there. Now in my mister, I also have this champagne mix. You can see it there, it's kind of sparkly. It's the same mix that I used in the Altenew thank you shaker card that I posted about a week ago. It's just a mix that Step It Up used to sell, and they don't sell it anymore. So there's the card stock front, or I'm sorry, there's the layer that's going to go on the bottom of the card. I think it turned out really cool. And I just dried it with my heat tool. And you can see there that the acetate piece did stain some, because like I said, it doesn't react well with water, but it's okay, I'm not worried about it. You can still reuse it. So now I'm using a vellum piece that was included in your kit, and it's got these little sparkles on it. And I was trying to decide which side was the front, but they look exactly the same on both sides, so it doesn't matter which side you use. I'm going to use a stamp from the kit. It says, "You make my heart flutter," and I just use my embossing bag or my embossing buddy to get rid of the static and the oils, and I'm going to stamp it with Versamark, and I'm going to heat it with liquid platinum embossing powder. I don't know if I said what it says, but it says, "You make my heart flutter." And I think that's a really beautiful saying. You could use it for like with the love cards. You could use it with butterflies, because butterflies flutter. So I might use that with a butterfly. I just ordered from Paper Tray Ink's new release, and they had a couple butterfly things that they released that I ordered. I didn't order all their butterfly stuff, but I did order some of it. So you could use that sentiment with butterflies, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm just taking my heat gun, and I'm going to go ahead and let it heat up before I put it onto the paper, because most of you know that vellum does warp easier than regular cardstock just because it's so much thinner. So I wanted my heat gun to heat up. I don't have the greatest heat gun. I've had this heat gun for about 4 years, and I just bought it from Joann when I first started crafting. Some of the older ones. I want to get the new Stampin' Up! One, or even the Milwaukee one, but I just haven't yet. So you can see it heat up, and I just love that. It's like magic. So I'm pulling 2 of the heart dies out of the kit here. You do get 3. One of them pops up a bunch of hearts. It doesn't cut all the way through. And then these 2 that I'm using on some Paper Tray Ink shimmer white cardstock. There's the one with the scallops and the one that cuts out the middle. So I just ran that through my die cut machine. And you can see that one cut out the middle piece. And this other one cuts out these little scallops that you can push up. And I did go through and push them up. And I probably should have waited, because I had to push them up several times after working with it. And then I just took my scissors and I cut along the outside. There's like a little embossed line that the die leaves, so I just use that as my cutting guide and cut around it. Now, I traced around the outside of this scallop die on some white foam, because I used the Paper Tray Ink adhesive foam sheets on my other card, but I only used 1 layer and it wasn't thick enough, and I wanted 2 layers because the 2 layers made it easier for the stuff to shake around. So I traced it onto just on the foam twice, and I cut it out, because the die doesn't actually cut out, it just leaves those scallops, as you could tell before. And now I'm going to run the run it through my die cut machine with the inside heart. That way I can create the little well for all the shaker bits. As you can see, I put my Big Shot machine the wrong way here to crank it. So that heart popped out the middle, and then I'm going to run this one through and cut out the middle of this one. So using two pieces of foam, when you have sequence, it makes it shake a lot better. Usually when I do shaker cards, I have like I have the micro beads and I have smaller things. Sequins are really big, they're really wide, and so if there's not enough space for them, they're not going to shake around really well. So I decided this time to use 2 layers of foam because on one of the other cards that I made using the materials from my kit, I used 2 layers and the little sequins shook beautifully. So I thought I would try that on this one instead of doing it with just the one. So I'm using my double-sided score tape to tape the 2 foam pieces together, and score tape is my tape of choice. I do not like wet glue. I don't like how it oozes. I don't like how it gets my fingers all sticky. Score tape doesn't leave a mess. All you have to do is pick up those little papers at the end, and I'm okay with that. So I just put some tape on it, push the little pieces in. I'm gluing the other one on top. So there I have my little well for my shaker card. I'm going to lay this heart back on just to see where I need to cut the excess off because I don't want the foam to show, obviously. So I need to make sure it's smaller than my heart that's going to be on the front. So I just put it up to see where I needed to trim, and now I'm trimming off the pieces so that it doesn't show when I layer it onto my card. So included in your Hero Arts monthly kit, you get about 6 pieces of 5x5 acetate. And so I'm just cutting around that larger heart die right now. It's the one with the scallops. Again, it doesn't cut out, so you have to cut out around it yourself. I'm just cutting around that, and that's going to be my little layer piece that keeps all the shaker bits from falling out. I'm just taking my tape runner, and running it around because I'm going to tape the acetate piece on. Now, in reality, or in hindsight, I put a blushing bride piece behind that so you could see a little bit of pink through the scallops, and I should have put the blushing bride piece on first, but I guess it doesn't really matter, but I should have, just because the acetate piece should go on the bottom part of that. And since I added another layer, it wasn't the bottom layer anymore, but it's okay. I was just going around fluffing up those scallops again because they worked their way down as I was pushing the acetate piece on, obviously. So here's the Blushing Bride cardstock from Stampin' Up! That I use. I'm cutting around the heart. You can't see this very well, but it's just like a little pop of pink behind the scallops when they're all popped up. And so I really like that. So I use that one heart die to cut out the inside again so that way you wouldn't see the middle of it. So you can just kind of see a little peek of the pink behind, which I think is really fun. Now, if I sound stuffy or anything again, you guys, please excuse my voice. I'm still getting over a cold that I had a week ago. It hasn't gone away fully, and then having to talk all week and teach, doesn't really help. So I'm taking a little bit of time for my voice to heal, it seems like. But, so there I am, just gluing it on. Again, I'm popping up the little scallops because, again, I pushed them down. So like I said, I should have just waited till the end, but it is what it is. I just think it's so fun. The little popping of the scallops. It's just something a little different. It's unique. So I made a mistake here. I did edit it out so you guys didn't have to watch it. But I'm putting the tape around my heart. I'm going to do the front and the back. And I accidentally taped it to my watercolor piece when that's not where I wanted it to go. I wanted it to go on my vellum piece, which goes over the watercolor piece. So in a minute you'll see here there's some... it looks like where the paper has been ripped up on my watercolor piece. That's because I ripped it off. I could put it on the vellum. But the watercolor piece is being covered with vellum anyway, and the heart was going to go over the vellum on top of the watercolor piece. So you weren't going to see where I ripped off the heart anyway. So it wasn't a big deal to me. So I got all the way through. I glued it down. I put the sequins in, and then realized, oh, Yeah, I forgot a step. So now here's my vellum piece back in. I'm lining it up on the one side and I'm folding it over at the top because you know with vellum you can't really put adhesive because you can see through it. So I'm putting the adhesive at the top so that it's got somewhere to stick. And then when I put my heart on it, that'll push it down. And I'm gonna wrap some ribbon around it, so that'll help keep it down at the bottom. I'm just trimming off the excess because of course we don't want any excess vellum while hanging over. So now I'm ready to put my heart down, and I realized that I needed to put some new score tape on it because I'd ripped it off and it took off some of the tape, obviously. So I'm just putting more tape on and peeling the backing off. I made quite a few mistakes when I was filming this card, actually, you guys, so it's a good thing that I decided to do a voiceover when I was filming. So now I can put my sequins in. I had already put them in and taken them out. So you'll be able to see here when I put the top on, but it shakes so much nicer when there's the popped up foam. And yes, you'd have to pay the extra, what, 30 cents or whatever for for mailing. But I'm not worried about that. It's not too much more expensive. So plus I don't really know who I'll give this card to. Maybe I'll give it to my niece. I don't know. So I'm just taking off the tape layer. Some of the sequins are kind of popping out. I'm trying to put them back in. That one was getting stuck to me. And then I'm going to go ahead and layer that top heart over it so that you can't see any of the foam behind it. So now it shakes a lot better. You can see those sequin pieces moving around. Now that sequins is from the kit. It's a Lucy's Cards mix called Love Things, I think, or it's Love something. I don't remember, but it's part of the kit. And it's got some beautiful pinks and iridescents and reds. And then there's some hearts in there as well. I'm taking some ribbon now. This is, I think, from the 2012 Occasions catalog from Stampin' Up. It's the Blushing Bride pleated ribbon. It's no longer available, but I bought like 4 rolls of each color. There's 4 colors. I bought like 4 rolls of each color because it was absolutely my favorite ribbon ever. I still love it. I don't think it's my favorite anymore, but I do love it. And I hardly ever use it. So I wanted to use it now because it matched that card base right there, which I'm using, that is also from the kit. So you get 2 pink card bases, 2 red card bases, and 2 white card bases along with matching scalloped envelopes. So I think that's really cool. And the Blushing Bride matched really well with the card base. So that's what I used. And I just taped it around the back so now the vellum is held down in place a little bit better. You can still see it flips up at the bottom, but that's kind of cool because then the person can see the little layer behind. And then I just glued that onto the card base. And I picked out some of the sequins from the mix there. And I'm just gluing them onto the front of the card base using my glossy accents. They have to use the red because the iridescent and the pink didn't really show up on the card base, obviously. And then here's when I realized I made another mistake. I glued my card front on upside down. So I had to peel it off and glue it back on again. I like these Hero Arts note cards because they have the white on the inside already, and you don't have to put a layering piece on the inside. So I'm using another stamp from the kit. I'm actually using 2 stamps from the kit. I'm using, I don't remember what that one says. Oh, you are so incredibly awesome. And then I have 2 of those little sweetheart hearts, you know, the little Valentine candies that you can buy. And they say love you. And I stamped the first one in red, and the hearts are going to be in pink. So there's my whole card. Again, this time I used 2 layers of foam, and it shakes a lot better. That's what I'm showing you there. So you can see that that one doesn't shake very well, and this one does. So thank you guys for watching. Check my blog out, and I'll see you later. Bye!